I covered the Jordan Neely situation in the full on my channel. Go and check that out. Also been covering what a lot of other content creators have been speaking about involving this case. And Candace Owens, someone I respect, that I am a fan of, spoke about this. And I think it's important that we hear what Candace Owens has to say. So let's check this out, fam. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hit the like button so we could spread awareness for what's going down out here in these streets, fam. And tell the real news. Spread the real information. Not what mainstream media is out here lying about, but the real stuff. Let's check it out.
It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I've been in those circumstances when you confront somebody, when you are confronted from somebody who is a crazy person on the subways. As you know, I lived in New York City for 7 years, and you don't know what they're going to do next. Now, before we get into more of a Jordan Neely story, let me tell you that the idea that homeless people are just suffering and all they want is some food is complete and utter bull. Okay? In these circumstances, 9 out of 10 times you are dealing with individuals that are drug-addled maniacs. Okay?
I don't know the exact numbers. I've had some experience because not only have I lived in the city, I was homeless in the city a few times. One of the major times is when I was a teenager. So I've seen a lot of crazy things. I definitely know that there like a lot of people that's homeless in the streets of New York. They're not harmless in the streets, like living in no, I'm not going to say that they're harmless. I've been chased by a few. Have had some pull out weapons on me. I've had deep conversations with some to where they told me the reasons of why they were afraid to go into shelters in the system right now. I do think they need help, but a lot of these people are going through mental health issues and being untreated, which is dangerous, right? So I'm not saying assume everyone is like that, but fam, let me just leave it like this, right? I'm not a doctor, but why would you logically choose to live in the streets of New York City? Have you seen the size of a New York rat? Nah? Okay. I just want to let you want to be on the streets with those? Okay. Yeah, keep your eyes open. You're going to wake up with a new pet. They're going to be the size of a cat on your chest. You're going to be petting it and all that. And let you have a blanket. You might put a blanket over it. Going to be like, you be singing like Michael Jackson. Bet the two of us. Oh, yeah, a lot of y'all might be too young for that reference.
End up in the streets because they just couldn't pay their rent. Typically, they ended up in the streets because, as I said, they have a steep history of mental illness. They've been on drugs. They were willing. You've seen Intervention on A&E, right? They were willing to abandon their family and
because there's shelters, and if you're choosing to not go to one, some, being fair and honest, some homeless people that I have spoken to have told me that they were afraid because of the stuff that goes down within shelters. There's stuff that goes down within the streets as well. So, like, it's just not safe anywhere. Really, 100%.
Their friends for the next hit. That is the average homeless person in New York City. They are not somebody to be feeling bad for. They are somebody to be fearful of. That is the truth. That is the truth that the Democrats on the left do not want you to acknowledge because it's coddle culture. They want you to feel.
You should probably be wary of everybody. I ain't saying you should be afraid, but you should be wary, right? You don't know these people, right? You shouldn't just be always like ready to attack or anything, but you should be wary of people that you don't know, right? Like what? For sure.
Bad every time you see a maniac that is threatening to harm you. So a man who was a off-duty journalist, his name is Juan Vasquez, recounts exactly what took place as he was on this subway on his way to Yonkers at about 2:30 p.m. on a Monday. And here is what he had to say in his own words. Take a listen.
The man began shouting, quote, "I want food. I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm ready to go back to jail, and I'll hurt anyone on this train."
The man got on the subway car and began to say a somewhat aggressive speech, saying that he was hungry, he was thirsty, and he didn't care about anything. He didn't care about going to jail, that he didn't care that he gets a big life sentence, and it doesn't matter if he died.
Vasquez says he was scared and believes others on the train were too. That's when he says a 24-year-old rider came up behind the man and put him in a chokehold.
Woo! Let's fast forward that. Crazy. Straight crazy. But yeah.
Or who were there, where he separated everything, moved from their place. I stayed sitting in my place because it was a little further away. But obviously those moments, well, one thinks fear, one thinks he may be armed.
He says that chokehold lasted about 15 minutes, even with the train stopped.
Hey, yeah. It's crazy. 15 minutes is wild, but then again, these guys are not professionals. I can't just assume that they all know the rules of how to hold the choke. You know what I mean? 15 minutes is excessive. 3 minutes is excessive if you're holding the choke properly. You're holding the choke properly.
Well, most of the people left. If they open the door, the train separates and it leaves. Almost all the people just stayed. The ones who were there on the floor fighting, a couple who was standing in front of them stayed.
Vasquez says no one thought the man would die, even after he went limp. EMS arrived and performed CPR, but he could not be revived.
His body shaking.
I think no one
Yeah, I'm gonna have to blur out a lot of this, guys. If you watching the playback, a lot of this is blurred for sure.
thought that he was in a risky situation because he was defending himself all the time. All the time he moved. He tried to remove his arm, and then when they had it on his side, he kept kicking. So he thought that he's defending himself.
So he said, quote, "I'll hurt anyone on this train," according to Juan Vasquez, who was there. "I will hurt anyone on this train." And Juan Vasquez says that he, a grown adult man, felt fear because a rational mind would feel fear if a person who looked like a vagrant jumped onto a train and said that they were willing to go to prison, that they did not care, that they were willing to die, and that they would, quote, hurt anyone on this train. But
yeah, that's crazy.
Pardon you if you think that that's rational thinking, because obviously we have politicians that are sweeping in to tell you otherwise.
Wait, I don't want to dive into. She's going to show AOC. I think AOC spoke out about it. I think AOC did speak out about it, and Candace is 100% right.
Despite the fact that Jordan Neely, as I mentioned, I think I said 42 arrests. No, he had 44 prior arrests, many of them subway related, including for disorderly conduct, assault, and fair.
A lot of people who happen to be homeless or just into certain things, they really do like the subway. Sometimes you could probably get some rest on the train if you can't get a proper place to sleep, right? It would protect you from the weather. You could avoid the things that you would have to deal with outside. But it seems like, yeah, the train is like a haven for people that are homeless.
Fare evasion. But despite all that, despite the fact that he had a history of threatening death, he had a history of harassing women, he had a history
Fare evasion. So yeah, so that means he was continuously hopping the train. To be arresting people over there, I still do think that that's a petty thing to arrest somebody over here, because they can just give you a ticket or even a court summons, right? If they could just give you a ticket, they could give you a court summons, right? If you want to, which they'll probably end with giving you a ticket or community service. You're not going to get any jail time for that. But a lot of cops will arrest you for it. they will, especially if it's time for that quota. 100%. If you want to watch the full video, check out Candace Owens' channel. Go and check out Candace Owens' channel, man. I don't want to play the full video because I think that she has a lot of really good stuff to say that you probably don't want to hear me interrupt. But I do agree with her on every point that she made so far. Yeah, 100%. I think that people, they want another George Floyd so bad because it's sad that the society that we live in today, victimhood and victim mentality, is what really brings the views and the eyes in. Also brings in the bucks, as some would say, the big bucks. bucks. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. I know I made a lot of changes recently, and it's because I'm trying to make sure I'm good out here in these streets. So this is probably the last big one, but guys, I have a new channel. It's for my live streams and my podcast, Real Talk with BXB Boy. You can find that link. That is a train going on in the background. I'm not editing it out. You can find that the link somewhere on my channel. If you go to my homepage, I'll probably have it in the pinned comments too as well. If not, in the description. But go and check that out. That's where you can catch topics not only early and way before they come out on my main channel, but you actually get to hang out with me and just have conversations, maybe even ask me for advice or just ask me whatever questions you want to have, or ask. So go and check that channel out, subscribe to that. Make sure you check out my previous episodes of my podcast. I appreciate the heck out of y'all, man. Also, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. Helps me keep going. You never know, man. I might get canceled. You might come on here. I might be gone tomorrow. Never know. Check me out on Patreon and find exclusive content. You also get early access to a bunch of stuff as well. Check that out.